Hello, welcome to Patty and Robert's Freelancing YouTube channel, where we talk about issues for freelancers. I'm Robert Thompson, and today I'm going to be talking about using passkeys and what you need to know about them. Let me move my picture out of the way. So, why have major sites starting to ask you to create a passkey? And should you start using them? These are good questions. I'm going to talk about what passkeys are, how they work, what you need to start using them, and things to watch out for. And then I think you'll understand why the sites are pushing passkeys. So, what is a passkey? It's a secure token that replaces a password. And this is very similar to the technology that's used in cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. So it's well proven and understood. Each token has two cryptographic keys, a private key that's stored on your computer, and it's unlocked using biometrics or a local password, and a public key that the website gets, and it can use it to read the passkey. Um, Inside the passkey, there's a user identifier, and this is not your user ID. This is a hash that takes the website owner to their version of your user ID. So it knows who you are. It contains site information and also what they call challenge information so that if there's any questions, um, the site can make sure that you're who you are. Some of the advantages for you are that they're not easily hacked, so you don't have to worry about them getting taken and reused. You don't need to remember the passwords for each site. This makes it so much easier to use in practice. Each passkey is unique. Um, and I will say the passkeys themselves work very well from my experience. And ZDNet has a series that I think it's a six-part series that covers many of the details if you really want to get into the technical gore, so to speak. So how do the passkeys work? On a PC, there's a private passkey store, which includes your user information, um, in a token form and then the public key. And it also includes an authenticator. And this is the tool that validates who you are. Um, and it can use a local password. And I'll talk a little more about that later, or biometrics like a fingerprint or a face scan. On the website, they have um, a public, I call it a public passkey store. It's really where they keep your user information, the user hacks, and the public key that they can use to decrypt the passkey. So they have that information. Now, when you sign on to the site, um, the PC connects to the site and the website asks the PC for an ID. And since the authenticator knows that you have a passkey, it goes and validates that you're who you are. It finds that passkey, and if it's not encrypted, it encrypts it, and then sends it to the website. The website decrypts the passkey with the public key and then validates the information that you sent. And then it signs the user onto the site. You don't really have to do anything, and it's much easier than passwords. So, why are companies pushing passkeys? Well, part of it is what I just talked about. Solve many of the problems. You don't need to remember the passkeys. It's got the security of two-factor authentication, but it's automatic and can't be intercepted. So it's much more secure than two-factor authentication. And Another big reason is companies are at risk. They have a copy of your password, if you're using passwords, that can be hacked and reused. And companies have had to pay millions when passwords were hacked and then reused and people were exposed. So they want to get people on passkeys as soon as possible. And key vendors see passkeys as a competitive advantage. Google, Microsoft, Samsung, Apple, they all are jockeying for position to put their tools um, in the best light. So they make it easy to use their tools and a little more difficult to use other tools. So they think if they can control the sign-on process, they have a competitive advantage. Now, what's the problem? The problem is that the tools to manage passkeys are very immature. I would say that passkeys, if it wasn't such a big advantage for the companies, they wouldn't even be rolling it out. They would allow some more time for the tools to be completed. I would say they're in beta testing at best. It's difficult to share a passkey right now, especially across different devices and between users. If you work in a small company or you have husband and wife and you both need access to your bank, well, that's a little more difficult right now. Um, some of the management tools work well on one platform, but not on others. Um, and some tools don't have some basic administrative functions, like they don't allow you to name the passkey so you know that this passkey is Robert's passkey going into Google. Or especially if you have multiple Google Mail accounts. If you use the defaults, you'll wind up with multiple passkeys for each site, and they'll be stored on different devices. It's really, you have to work to prevent um, the creation of different passkeys on your phone than on your computer. Apple, Google, Microsoft, they each have different approaches. So there's no one shop that fits all. And different devices use different biometrics. So there's a number of gotchas out there. Um, and why is it confusing? Well, part of it is because each vendor and website has their own approaches. And for the websites, it really depends on what vendor they primarily use to implement the passkeys. Um, and on your PC, the password manager and authenticator can be from different devices, so you can wind up um, having problems with the authenticator finding the passkey and things like that. Um, Different password managers and authenticators fight for control. When you're setting up, you'll find that if you don't disable some of the stuff, it will take control and you'll wind up having it in the wrong manager. Ideally, you should be able to choose which manager you want as the default, just like you choose your default browser. And then the site should let that password manager drive the process. Um, but we're definitely not there yet. So if you want to use passkeys, and there's no problem in waiting right now. I think you've got a few months, but it will improve. But if you want to start to understand the passkeys and start using them and taking advantage of some of the benefits, I would recommend that you choose one manager for all your passkeys. So decide what manager you want to use. Um, Personally, I think the third-party password managers have a major advantage in that they're not tied into the platform. So tools like NordPass, 1Password, Keeper, Bitwarden, it's a big name, RoboForm or Dashlane, they all now manage passwords. And they've got different levels of maturity. um, but they all work. The OS provided tools like Microsoft, Google, or Apple work best if you really only work on one platform. And I would say, to me, Apple's the only one that has an implementation that works across all the platforms. Um, you want to disable requests to store your passkeys and other tools. By default, Google and Microsoft turn on passkey management. And so when you go to create the passkey, you'll suddenly have two or three different tools all trying to say, give me your passkey. And it gets very confusing. So best practices. Um, Once you've picked that one manager, you want to create a secure sign-on to the password manager. And my experience is you need to use it fairly often. So it needs to be something that you remember, but not something that's incredibly easy, like password or something. Um, so I tend to use passphrases, something like Mary had 18 lambs with periods instead of spaces. That is a pretty secure password, but it's easy to remember. So something like that might be a good starting point. Or you can use biometric sign-ons. The problem right now I've seen is most of the PC tools don't really do facial recognition well yet. That's still getting worked on, but you can try using that. And then when you go to log on to a site for the first time to create a passkey, double check that you're logged into your password manager, because password managers will disable your logon after a certain period of time, and you can define it. It can be hours or days. So you want to make sure you're logged in and then go into the site. When the site says you want to create a password, say yes and make sure that the other managers were disabled and you're only getting it in your preferred password manager. Um, right now, the way things are, you just have to be diligent to do that. The other thing I would suggest is to maintain backups. Most of the tools allow you to create backups, especially if you're using them to manage your passwords as well as your backups. And while one of the ideas is to get rid of passwords, you need to right now to still have a fallback method. So keep copies of your passwords, ideally in the same tool, in case you need to recreate a passkey um, or delete one because there's a problem with it and create a new one. So you want to keep the password so you don't lose access to your sites. So what's the future? I do think that passkeys are the future. Passkey management will quickly become more mature. There's a lot of vendors that are working hard to make passkey management work well. I think you'll find that managers will work equally well on all platforms in the near future. I think biometrics will be introduced on all platforms. I think they'll get the facial recognition um, hooks in there. And then I think they'll set up deleting and replacing passkeys in a standardized way. Right now, it's really hard to delete a passkey because you don't know what it is or where it's been stored. Um, Passkeys will be adopted much more widely. The industry work is saying passkeys will replace passwords in 3 to 5 years. Um, and this means websites will be pushed to implement passkeys. So if you have a website for your business, you need to think about that as well. And passkeys will eventually become the default. I think the passwords will go away. So, next steps. Now it's a good time. If you want to take the effort, select a password manager that handles passkeys. Import your passwords from old tools. The password management function of all the password managers is pretty good. You want to disable the other password managers. Um, like I said, Google, Samsung, Microsoft, they all have their managers in by default, and you have to manually disable them. And then start working with passkeys on a limited number of accounts. See how they work. And you may want to read about passkeys to learn more. And let us know how your experiences with passkeys are going. We'll share that in our newsletter. Um, so that's it for Passkeys. Check out our next video. Um, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you need coaching, contact us. Info at rptvirtualservices.com or follow our blog on our website. And then have a great week.